Side
They
effect?
forced China to become more self-reliant and invest in its own scientists and researchers.
China
They've
always
been very
finds a way
aggressive
out.
in applying for patents.
Hey guys, it's the Loud Guys. Today we are going to watch Trump is facing a losing war, tariff war with China. So we know that Trump has very great plans and very interesting plans to fight the tariffs and to make tariffs more harder and to make sure that more things are produced and also more jobs are given in America only. But the thing is, their competition is with China, so they know that if they will increase the tariff, then China will decrease its prices, and China can also do a lot of things. So let's watch this
video.
It's official. Donald Trump has been elected President of the United States.
Donald Trump's first presidency gave Washington a playbook of hardline tactics for preventing China from overtaking the U.S. as the world's dominant economic and technological power.
Yeah.
Trump
China
introduced
produces
punitive
everything.
tariffs on China, as well as trying to rebalance the trade deficit to try and contain China's economic rise, as well as trying to contain its military might.
To me, the most beautiful word in the dictionary is tariff.
Trump is focused on raising tariffs to prevent China from shipping many of their goods into the United States that perhaps are subsidized by the government.
And his campaign for re-election left no doubt that his ambition for American supremacy was still his North Star.
We will hire American, buy American, build American, grow American, and show the whole world that the American dream is back.
Wow.
But after 4 years out of the Oval Office, Trump is returning to face an emboldened, savvier China, and one the U.S. may already be losing its battle to contain.
Already losing the
Tackling
battle.
that is likely to be one of Trump's primary plot lines in the sequel to his first 4-year showdown with China.
The China challenge. It would be very difficult.
Thank you very much.
Let's rewind for a second. When China joined the World Trade Organization in 2001, it marked a new era in global economics. Lower trade barriers allowed China to ship cheap toys, t-shirts, and TVs around the globe, and an
Everything
export
is Chinese.
bonanza that helped lift hundreds of millions of Chinese into the middle class. Then around here, two pivotal events occurred.
I am officially running for President of the United States.
In that same year, China officially revealed a 10-year plan to upgrade its thriving export economy with cutting-edge innovations.
Made in China 2025 is essentially President Xi Jinping's vision to secure China's place in the world as a preeminent global technological
Now they're
leader.
improving their
At its
quality
heart,
too.
It's really about ensuring that China's national security goals are at the heart of its policy making.
It's the kind of grand ambition that would galvanize successive U.S. presidents into taking action.
This is number one, but this is the first of many.
The U.S. efforts to contain China's growth began with tariffs and some of the trade policies in the Trump administration.
Basically, they
This
sought to make it
sign
more
is like a
expensive
heartbeat.
for Chinese companies to sell to the U.S. and consequently redress a massive trade deficit, the imbalance that occurs when a nation imports more from a country than it exports to it.
President Biden is holding back on a decision to scrap any Trump-era tariffs on China imports.
You can see this has had an impact. In 2023, the deficit shrank to the smallest total since 2010, reflecting
it
a
was
decline
working.
in imports shipped from China. But globally, China's productive prowess is at historic heights. Its manufactured goods trade surplus is the largest relative to global GDP of any country since the
China is
US
exporting
right
a
after
lot.
World War II. Trump also introduced policies to control high-tech exports from US manufacturers, as well as those of some allied economies, which were tightened by the Biden administration.
So that essentially makes it impossible or much harder to transfer US goods or US technologies into China.
The U.S. government stopped Huawei from being able to sell much of its telecom equipment into the United States. And then it went even a step further. It went to many of its allies around the world and tried to persuade them also to not let Huawei sell its equipment into their countries. That caused all sorts of problems for them. In 2022, they constrained China's ability to get the most advanced semiconductors out there, including AI chips that would be used to train models like ChatGPT. They also constrained the country's ability to get chip-making equipment, including the machines that make the most advanced chips, that drives smartphones and also AI and quantum computing.
Massive appliances like these extreme ultraviolet lithography machines developed by Dutch company ASML. The constraints are also intended to hinder China's tech giants from developing anything that could threaten America's military superiority, a concern long intertwined with Washington's economic strategy.
In terms of semiconductors and these really sensitive technologies, China is still lagging behind the US. So we have seen some efficacy there.
But the data shows US-led export controls had an unintended side effect. They forced China to become more self-reliant and invest in its own scientists and researchers.
China always finds a way out.
They've been applying for patents that they think are going to help them develop domestic industries
More
that are critical to their future.
When President Xi Jinping makes something a priority in China, he can point to banks to provide cheap financing, he can point to state-owned enterprises to throw their full weight behind backing that certain sector or industry.
For instance, backers of companies like Shanghai Microelectronics Equipment considered China's best bet for competing with ASML's advanced lithography machines.
At this point, I think everybody believes that they're many years away from being able to match ASML at the pinnacle of the industry, but they're pouring billions and billions of dollars into this effort, and they're very determined to be able to close the gap as much as they possibly can.
Evidence that China's semiconductor ecosystem was expanding emerged in 2023 when Huawei released the Mate 60, or more precisely, when Bloomberg News commissioned a research firm to take one apart.
Inside that phone was a semiconductor that was much more powerful than anybody thought China could make on its own.
It suggested instead of being 8 or 10 years behind the US, actually China was 4 to 5 years behind the US. But the cross-application is what really worries DC, that if we can do this with a consumer product like a phone, it's just as easy to do this with much more sensitive technology that's used for military applications. In other areas, China really has charged ahead to take a lead.
Take a look at this chart. You can see China's market share of many high-tech exports growing, particularly EVs, despite US tariffs and restrictions on access to technology.
Ultimately, there is this idea that trade always gets through. And that's sort of what we see when we think about the EV industry in China. So, for example, a big EV automaker like BYD is already getting around some of these potential restrictions by building factories in places like Thailand, Hungary,
that's how they use
Brazil.
Trump wants to further limit imports of Chinese EVs and batteries, and in his second term may try to fulfill a popular campaign pledge to protect US car makers.
I will impose whatever tariffs are required, 100%, 200%, 1,000%.
What?
We're not going to sell one car into the United States.
The concern in Washington is that the electric vehicles and some of the software behind them would be able to collect personal information and perhaps share it with the Chinese government, or at least with the companies that are involved in making those vehicles.
It's the kind of rhetoric Beijing has vehemently rejected.
中国将继续坚定维护本国企业的正当合法权益。我们也支持中国企业依法维护自身权益。
So, have two US administrations hindered China in ways Trump initially intended? It doesn't appear so.
The vast majority of Made in China 2025 targets that Bloomberg tracks actually have been achieved or are on track to be achieved.
Tariffs have helped cut America's trade deficit with its rival. But, as we saw earlier, they haven't prevented China from boosting exports elsewhere. And while the US may have slowed Beijing's progress in some areas, like advanced chip making, overall, Xi Jinping's industrial policies are successfully advancing China's technological capabilities.
They're so good.
But even if the US hasn't managed to trip China yet, nobody expects a second Trump administration to stop trying.
If you look at the geopolitic landscape, I think it's clear that the United States will continue to apply pressure on their ally for more restriction.
How this sequel to Trump's first confrontation with China will play out is yet to be written. But if you listen to Trump, it's clear that keeping America on top is his ultimate goal.
We can do things that nobody else can do. China doesn't have what we have. Nobody has what we have.
This raises a lot of serious questions about how Trump is going to do all of this, because China is like continuously advancing itself and like making technology better. Because I knew, like from my childhood itself, we always used to say that Chinese products are cheap products. They are not good, they are not reliable, and that was the main thing behind like why to not choose Chinese product. Because we also knew that the same toy I was getting for 200 rupees in India, I could get the same for 100 rupees from China. But the thing was, it was cheap quality, so it was not preferable. But now they are improving the technology also, so that is a big question mark.
The thing is, we cannot underestimate the Chinese government or the China, because also even in my childhood also I had to buy. But the thing is, no matter what you say that the quality is not good, people still buy because it's cheap. You cannot change this thing. So now it's good that now they're improving their image, but the thing is that remains the same, because we know the Chinese products are not good, and if we are buying it for the temporary thing, then they are good. And also I just love the confidence of Trump, because he is so like, we have to make us better, and what we have, no other country has.
Actually, so what do you guys think about it? Do let us know in the comment section below. So do like, share and
subscribe.
Bye.